Hello everybody. So we just did a final sifting on the ENCs and the last red wiggler bin. We're done with sifting that now. This is my ENC Breeder bin, and I'm gonna pull the worms and reset this stuff today. And these ENCs, okay, this is my breeder bin, and we just got done sifting it. And you'll go through that and you'll say, well, geez, those ENCs are not very big. No, they're in a more concentrated population. These ENCs are bigger. Because there's only 220, 250, 200-ish worms in here. Let's just call it 200-ish worms. And what has happened in them being in a breeder bin situation, they have more space and they have more food. Boom, bang, crash. So boom, bang, crash. Yes. All right, so I'm going to use this bin to sort these guys into. So these are grapes. This is what I fed these guys last time. I am assuming we're going to find a high concentration of worms right there. So there's a couple of worms. I want to do this backwards here. The worms that I'm going to pick out are going to go this direction. But I am going to just try to use the light method. But if I see a worm, put it in the bin, right? So I find that ENCs are much more in tuned to working with the light extraction method. Because they don't like they don't tolerate light as much as the red wigglers do. So they, as soon as the light hits them, they seem to kind of head for cover. So these little white spots on this grape, on these grapes, are fruit gnats, and they will hatch and they will probably become flies. So I set up I'm going to set up some apple cider vinegar when I move them, I'll put them into that bin, and then I'll set up some apple cider vinegar with a drop of dish soap in it to catch the gnats. And it works. It works really well, actually. You will catch the high percentage of them. You'll have a few gnats around, and I mean, it happens. But they're not. They don't come out of the bin very much, as long as there's feed there. Grapes are high in sugar. Bananas are high in sugar. And anything that's high in sugar like that is somewhat susceptible to gnats. So if you get them, it's not the end of the world. You can control them with a catch, like with a apple cider vinegar and dish soap, and it works. It does work. I've done it before. So I don't know if you can see these guys, but as I expose them, they head back into the pile. And some of them I just take out. I figure if they're there by themselves, easy to pick up, there, you might as well just move them. Quite wet, but that's okay. Breeder bins. You want your breeder bins fairly wet because it's more prone to better conditions, right? Like the conditions are better for your worms to do the reading. You just keep taking your time, the food is going to go there. As long as it doesn't have worms on it, I am moving the food. It's going into the brooder bucket because there could be eggs or cocoons laid on it, and we want that to go to our brooder bin. And there's more worms in there to deal with it. I think I may have actually given these worms just a little bit too much food when I fed last time. And it happens. I mean, I didn't give them enough to hurt them, but there's definitely more food there than what they're going to get to with this number of worms. So I will put it in my other bin, which is more active, and there's more population there to use it up. And kind of just restart the breeder bin. There's a real good chance I could have baby worms in here too, because I've waited longer to reset the bin and to pull this bedding off with the ENC cocoons. There's a chance that some of the cocoons may have started to hatch in here because I was still sifting the other brooder bin, and I didn't want to mix this stuff up in there. So there's a chance that there's going to be baby worms, but it's not the end of the world. Hi Nix, you coming to visit? Nix is here to help. Gur's obviously helping. And Nix is a funny little dog. Well, she's not even little, she's a freaking tank, but she's definitely weird. You coming to help? Coming up? She doesn't come that close to me that often, but she wonders who I'm talking to up here, so she comes up to check it out. I'm talking to you guys, of course. So, making the video, and yeah, she's kind of intrigued by it, I guess. Comes and checks and sees who I'm talking to. That is a big ENC cocoon. That's the whole point of doing this. You get them to have more cocoons, and when you put them in this kind of environment, they have lots of room, so they think they need to reproduce lots. And as they do that, you do 21 days of that, and you get a whole bunch of cocoons, and then you give them a new batch, and pretty soon you've got your brooder bin where you put them is very active. And it's a way of getting your population to it's a way of getting your population to, I guess, get bigger faster, expand faster. But you see, I'm not sure if you guys can see from that distance, but as I take stuff off, they just keep digging in there, and pretty soon, as I take off the bedding off the top of them, and I try to check it to make sure I'm not bringing back a bunch of worms, but if I have 1 or 2 worms that get in here, I don't care, because they're just going into the brooder bin anyways. So there's worms in there, there's mature worms in there, there's breeder worms in there in the brooder bin. This is supposed to be all breeder size, but in the brooder bin there's breeders and there's wisps, which wisps are baby worms. And then there's what I call toddler worms, like they're the ones you can actually kind of see real easy, but they're still really small. Those would classify to me as toddler worms. And then you get the juveniles, or the teenage worms. Teenager worms that are, you know, smaller than breeders, but they're not mature yet. So they're called juveniles, or in my terms, my redneck terms, I call them teenagers. And then you've got your adult breeders. So I'll give you an example. The guy right there is what I classify as like late toddler to beginning of teenager worm. We'll put him in here because then he can go into the brooder bin. It's not that I don't want. A couple of months ago, I waited a month to take out the worms out of the bedding and put them in the brooder bin. I ended up having a lot of babies hatch before I did that. So a lot of what you're seeing, these small ones, these toddler size worms now in here, are from that. And they eventually, if you don't put them in with this stuff and move them to the brooder bin, eventually they're going to be the size of breeders, and they'll just become breeders. It's not that big a deal. See, European night crawlers are more apt to go try to get out of away from the light, and they're more apt to go wandering about than the red wigglers are. Hi, Nix. Come on. You gonna come play worms? Oh, yeah. That is Nix, and that's how she talks to me. She barks at me. She is very vocal. You gonna come play worms? You come visit? She's funny. Really is funny. So you just, as you're pulling this stuff off at the end, you gotta keep your worms kind of balled up because they want to get away from that light, and they are pissed. So you just got to keep firing them back into the ball, pushing them back to the ball. When I do this with the red wigglers, they just seem to chill out, and they're a lot more easygoing. Alright, I want to show you something. I'm going to bring you in here. See this guy right here? That's a teenager worm. This one, pretty much an adult. The one that's going off to the corner, that's an adult. So, just kind of showing you how it works and how the different stages look. And if you, like I say, you really gotta watch these guys because they're speedy too. Like if you happen to walk away and come back, they'll already be some down here because they're fast. Whereas the red wigglers, they seem to kind of take their time, and they're more easygoing, and we'll put that guy in there. But do you see how they just keep pushing stuff out as they ball? They will do that for you, and pretty soon you've got like most of your bedding material is been pushed out by them. And it's up to you how far you want to take them to get them clean. Because you can keep going right down to where you've got just worms, or you can leave a little bit of bedding in them. It's entirely operator's discretion. So there we have it. We have our material with our cocoons and our bedding separated from our worms. It's a nice little ball of worms. And don't forget, we've got these guys here that we moved down to the bin below just to get them out of the road as I was going along. So all together, that's my breeder group of my ENCs. Oh, there's one more down here. Leave no worm behind. Alright, this one's closed. So I'll show you this as I'm doing it. Oh, that'll work. Yep, I got baby worms in here. So I waited a little bit long, and these guys, when you've got ENCs in your hand, they're a little more squiggly than the red wigglers. They definitely move more, and they feel a little more, shall we say, weird. Actually, I'm going to just set my worms there. And there's about 200 in there. So it doesn't take many to make a breeder bin. And yes, you could put more if you so desired. I mean, I can grab a few of these breeder size ones that are on top. So don't take them long to get down though. They're a lot faster than the red wigglers when you expose the red wigglers to their here. I just added that to the breeder bin because I'm sure over time we have extracted worms out of the breeder bin. So just to maintain the numbers, I kind of try to get some more back in there. But in all actuality, here we go. So there's baby worms in here where my worm ball was. I'm going to do my best to try to get them up, but I mean, if I don't get them, the worms are, the breeder bin is going back into this bin. So I'm not real concerned if I don't get them all. Let me pause you. I gotta go get some bedding and a little bit of food. Okay, I'm back. I've got my food. Carrots, a little bit of onion, a little bit of apple, a little bit more carrot, a little bit more potato. Okay. I freeze all my stuff, as most of the people that have been following me know. I freeze all my stuff. Now, this is bedding that I have that I started before, and it just lets the microbes get a chance to get going. There's a good chance I'm probably going to add some moisture to this stuff. I'm not going to put these big filters in. They can go into a different bin. In fact, I'll probably put some in that one. Baby worms love coffee filters. We drink a lot of coffee around here. So we use that up. And coffee is good food for breeder bins. But you have to put good carbon source in with it, so that's all newspaper and stuff. ENCs could live on the paper and the card and the coffee alone. They don't need much more. I mean, they may not do as well as if you give them food, because I mean, food has more energy and whatnot in it. There's quite a bit of energy for them in the coffee and the cardboard as well. So if, like, I didn't give them a whole bunch of food in there, because you see how they've pushed out some more of that bedding. What the heck? All right. Now I'm just going to do that, set them down, and I'm just going to let them go down into the bedding themselves. So one of the things that I've learned is at any time you can zoom in and out just by, zooming in with your on your device on YouTube. So if you're on your phone, you can zoom in and you can zoom in yourself to see this. That's kind of a neat thing that YouTube does, or that you're able to do, I should say, on YouTube. So this stuff is damp, but it's not wet. So I'm just going to wet it down. And this is simply water that's been sitting out for a couple days. It's really just my drinking water that I use for drinking water. But it's been sitting out on beside my bed now for a couple of days, and okay, there's a reason why I let the worms go down by themselves. And I really believe that it's better to have them go down by themselves than it is to cover them up. Because if they go down by themselves, then they're more apt to be happy where they're at and not automatically just go squirching around everywhere to explore their new area. They're going to explore anyway, but they're more apt not to go roaming up and out of the bin. So that's why I do that. So now this is our breeder bin. This stuff here is the stuff we brought over. It's filled with cocoons and some castings. Lots of coffee. There's castings in there though. And the food is in there with it. And the worms that were carried in with this bin are definitely, and the brooder bin worms are definitely going to do a better job on that food than what that number of worms was doing. When I'll set up that gnat trap later. All right, this one's done. We've also got Gurr. Gurr is helping us today too. So, but this once these guys go down, we're just gonna, and we can stimulate him a little bit, just give him a little bump. It'll make them go down. But they're going down pretty good. Most of them are headed down. So we'll try to go 21 days. So this is the 21st. So mid-April, I guess, we're going to have to redo these again. Somewhere around the 11th or 13th or something. Somewhere in there. 15th. If we do it then there may be some babies, but we're most likely not going to have that many. And it's okay if there is. It doesn't really bother me. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when we do something and put a video up. Spring's coming and it's going to get a lot more exciting. We're going to be brewing tea. We're going to be spreading brewed tea out on farmland. We're going to be using worm tea as a seed treatment for some of the crops that the fellow that rents my land, my farmland part, we're going to use some worm tea as a seed treatment. We're going to start a windrow out at the farm and get it composting and heating up. And then once it starts to cool off, we're going to add worms to it so that it can get established over the year and get ready for the next year. And basically, I'm learning my way through that. It's going to be an interesting go, because everything is new out there. It's all a new concept to me. I've never done that before. There is some, but there's not a lot of already on YouTube information on that size of a vermicompost system. There's very little information on it. So I'm going to be recording it and showing people along the way what my results are and what I've done. So it's going to get interesting. But we gotta have some warm weather here. Come on, guys. Where you go? Where you go? Keep going. So people wonder, I had one person wondering if my cats, I have two cats, we have two cats and two dogs. And they were wondering about pets bothering the worm bins. And no, I have never had my pets bother my worm bins. I've noticed that grandchildren and children can bother worm bins fairly good, but not the pets. They don't really worry too much about it. So most of them have gone down, so I think we're just going to cover them up and let them rip. So you want your breeder bins to stay wet, but not closed. I do not use lids anymore. I had a disaster. So that's it for my breeder bin reset on March 21st of 2024. Thanks for coming by and checking it out, and have a great day.